Am I the a-hole for telling my sister it's not my fault she has children? Burner account as I'm paranoid. For background, I, F28, have been working for a bank as a processor for the last 10 years, and while I know I'm lucky to have my job, my working pattern is good and I have the option to work from home. The job itself is boring and can be stressful, and it's not what I want to do with my life. I could never decide what I wanted to do when I was younger, and instead of going to college, I decided to work and gain experience for maybe a year or so until I could make my mind up before returning to higher education. But I got too used to making money and never did. Fast forward 10 years, and I've come to the conclusion that what I would like to do is write books full-time. I have been writing and self-publishing for a few years now. However, I would like to be able to dedicate more time to it, but up until now, that's never been an option. My husband, M30, was promoted almost 2 years ago now and is literally doing his dream job. He makes far more than I do, but not quite enough to completely support us just yet. But recently he took me aside and said he knew I wasn't happy in my job and it was hurting him to see. He suggested that instead of working a 40-hour week, I reduce my hours and maybe do 25 instead, as we can easily afford it. I was completely over the moon at the suggestion and agreed. Work was also happy to accommodate due to my length of service. My sister, F24, on the other hand, was not so happy about my decision. My sister and her husband, M27, both work full-time hours and have 2 young children. My sister has accused me of being lazy and saying that I shouldn't be taking less hours unless I have children in order to do something that's just a hobby. She says that even she has to work full-time in order to raise her children, and that me not feeling like working isn't an excuse to sit around the house and do nothing all day while my husband is out making money. I've told her that I've worked nonstop since I was 18 years old and now finally know what I want to do with my life, which got me the response that if I took more initiative to find out before now, I could have been doing what I love professionally for years instead of just starting out. This is where I think I might have been an a-hole, but I basically told my sister that while I could sympathize with the fact she has a lot on her plate, it's not my fault that she has children and I don't. At this point, she raged at me, saying I'm clearly too irresponsible to understand the sacrifice and dedication it takes to have one child, never mind 2, and that if I want to be a part-time worker and write silly love stories, then I can go do that. I've spoken to my parents, and while they don't think I'm in the wrong, they say I should be more understanding of why me and my husband being in a better financial position is a sore spot. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm honestly overwhelmed by the response this has gotten and incredibly appreciative of everybody's support, so thank you all for your input. I'm feeling a lot better about things now and less angry overall as a result. A slight update, I received a call from my sister's husband about an hour ago. For context, the argument with my sister happened on Tuesday, not Wednesday. He said that he'd noticed my sister had been off for a few days, but wouldn't tell him what was wrong, but finally caved today. He made it clear on the phone call that he doesn't agree one bit with what my sister said to me and that he's told her she needs to apologize for being cruel and judgmental over what was supposed to be good news in my life. He didn't elaborate but hinted that there was more to why my sister reacted the way she did, and that he'd come over tomorrow with my sister so we can talk. Hopefully we can sort things out because I love my sister and ultimately want her to be as happy as I am in my life. AITA has no consensus bot, OOP was NTA. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You are an independent married woman. Why are you seeking approval from your birth family for your marital and life choices? OOP. I honestly didn't think it would be a big deal when I told them. It was more of a here is what's going on in my life, and this is what I was met with unfortunately. Commenter 2. NTA. But is your sister in healthcare or retail? Something feels familiar about that sentiment. OOP. Dental assistant, so somewhat healthcare. Commenter 3. Info, it depends on your tone. Were you a matter of a fact or matching her energy? You should be shutting down your younger sister immediately when she attacks you for sharing things happening in your life. Rage is not a typical sibling response to jealousy, but you don't seem surprised by her reaction. You should be. I assume from your parents, what did you expect? Type response and that you waited longer than needed to say anything. She is trained to receive no consequences or reaction to tantrums and rage. If that's the case, what took you so long? OOP, I would like to think I was being matter-of-fact, but honestly, I was probably more just over her being in lecture mode by the time I said what I did. It was on the same day I responded this way. She'd come over for a visit and chat, and for the most part we get on quite well generally. I wasn't surprised she wasn't totally supportive, but her reasoning for not being supportive baffled me. I had once said jokingly before that I'd love to be able to quit my job, and here's hoping one day my husband would be able to earn enough money for the both of us. At no point did I ever think this could ever be the case, but even then my sister said that wouldn't be a good idea, though her reasoning at the time was, what if we ever got divorced? How would I support myself? Commenter 4. I bet she's pregnant. OOP, my husband jokingly suggested this, but now I have the fear. Update. Next day. I didn't think I was going to write an update to this at all, but I got a few messages and requests for an update, so here we are. My sister and her husband came by today as promised. They actually came over much earlier than I was anticipating and left a couple of hours ago, so I don't know if I managed to say everything I probably should have at the time, but here's the gist for those of you who wanted to know. It didn't take a genius to see that my sister wasn't doing too well. She normally takes pride in her appearance and how she dresses, while I'm usually the one to prioritize sleep over putting on a full face of makeup. But when she turned up this morning, she looked as if she hadn't slept in days. She had no makeup on, and she was just wearing some loungewear. Not overly important details, except that she didn't look like my sister at all. She immediately apologized as soon as she walked into the living room and hugged me before I could say anything. I hugged her back because she's my little sister, and no matter what, I love her to death. It also occurred to me that it felt as if she's lost a ton of weight, and while she's always been slim, this worried me a bit, and any residual annoyance I might have felt dwindled quite quickly. A lot of you guessed that my sister is pregnant with baby number 3. I'm sorry to disappoint, but this turned out not to be the case. As it turns out, my nephew, M4, her eldest son, has been diagnosed with autism and has been having some major behavioral problems as of late. He's always been a rambunctious kid and prone to a tantrum, but I put this down to him being a child and didn't think too much of it. Apparently, he's been having huge meltdowns at nursery school, leading to him being violent with other kids and members of staff. And it's led to my sister having to leave early from work on very short notice, and has had to call in sick several times when he's in a bad way. Due to this, she's been called into a disciplinary meeting, which might lead to a formal hearing, and it's really worrying her. She's also incredibly worried about what her son's life is going to look like and how much support he'll need moving forward. Her husband is there for her, of course, but he works a job where he needs to drive hours away at a time, so isn't always at home in the mornings when things are at their worst. His mother lives alone in another part of the country, and our parents aren't able to do a whole lot of babysitting as our mother still works and our dad has bad problems with his back. She acknowledges that her behavior was totally uncalled for, but that hearing about me being in a position to be able to cut my hours when she's worrying about even having a job in a couple of weeks really triggered her, and that she's been on medication for her mood for several weeks now as it is. I told her that of course I understood how her position could be stressful and upsetting, but if she had trusted me with this info and confided in me as a sister, of course I would have been there for her in any way I could have. Her husband cut in at this point and assured me that they were both incredibly grateful for every time I and my own husband had helped them out over the years, and he didn't want this to be something that caused our families to drift apart. My sister agreed, and again, she acknowledged her mistake and admitted that she feels like recently things have been really difficult for her while my life seems to be falling into place. She said that even when I was at my lowest, I still did everything with an air of confidence that she has always lacked, and that even when I didn't know where my life was going, I always held my head high and saw the positives. Something she is really struggling to do right now. She also told me that she told our parents about speaking to a doctor and being on medication for depression, but had asked them not to say anything to anyone, which is probably why they wanted me to go easy on her. Overall, I'm not mad anymore, and I know that deep down my sister is happy for me. She's just in an uncertain situation right now, and it got the best of her. Edit. Thank you all for the incredible suggestions and sources of support that may be able to help my sister and my nephew. This is still all very new, not just to me but for them too, and no doubt we'll all be spending a very long time looking into the best options and seeing what is best going forward. I may not be the best when it comes to childcare, but if there's one thing my job has taught me this last decade, it's how to get as many details and as much info as possible, so no doubt I'll be putting that skill to good use very shortly. Relevance/top comments. Commenter 1, I'm sorry she's having a hard time. To be honest, I still feel like they are trying to talk you into being babysitters for her son. Helping your sister is important, but if they ask this, please think about what it means for your dream. OOP, trust me, I've been very clear about this with them, and honestly, as much as I love my nephews, I've never been a go-to for babysitting in general. They know my tolerance for kids is very low at the best of times, and considering my eldest nephew's additional needs, I think we all know that would be a massive disaster waiting to happen. Commenter 2, I'm glad she was able to apologize to you. Her being stressed doesn't make it okay for her to take that out on you. You can do whatever you want with your time, it's not up to her. Also, I'm just curious, is it always your sister that has to take care of the kid and miss work? Being default parent is super stressful, and it seems like her husband doesn't take time off to help when the kid's having issues. He's a parent too, it shouldn't be on her every single time. OOP, from what I understand, it hasn't been out of choice, it's more that whenever there's been a call about my nephew needing to be picked up early from nursery because he's in the middle of meltdown and no one can get him out of it. She's the one close enough to be able to do it, as her husband can sometimes be literal hours away. Plus, a lot of the time he has to be out early in the morning so he can be back at a decent time in the early evening, and it just so happens that mornings can be difficult if the little guy isn't feeling it. This is all still very new for them, and they know changes need to be made and options looked into to make things easier. Commenter 3, your poor sister, she seems truly remorseful. No one is truly prepared for a child with special needs, and having to work full-time on top of that is incredibly hard, and let's be honest, life is easier without kids. Losing your job has a different meaning when you have kids who completely depend on you. I would look into all the programs in your area that help with special needs, and I know where I live special needs kids can start public school at age 3 where they can get the help they need. I really hope things work out for your sister in the long run.